Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I am Michael Benitez. Now today, this video will be about another train disaster. This train remains the worst disaster in Amtrak history. This wreck was the 1993 Amtrak Sunset Limited train crash off the Bayou Canot Bridge. Let's begin the story of the most tragic disaster in Amtrak history. Started in 1894, the Sunset Limited was the first ever transcontinental train. It would run from New Orleans to San Francisco. Over the years, the train would become extremely popular, and as being the first ever transcontinental train, would go from one side of the country to the other. One of the key features of the original Sunset Limited was the Pride of Texas lounge car, which looks very nice and luxurious. The Sunset Limited was later handled to Amtrak after the foundation of Amtrak in 1971 to replace the Gulf Wind. This train would usually run from New Orleans to Florida. However, on one fatal night, everything would change and would cause the worst wreck in Amtrak history. September 22nd, 1993. Amtrak Sunset Limited is rocketing to Mobile, Alabama from Los Angeles to Miami, Florida. On it are 220 passengers and crew. The train was headed by three engines. A relatively brand new Genesis locomotive, number 819, and two F40s, 262 and 312. The train consists of three engines, one baggage car, one dormitory car, and 6 passenger cars. The train is heading to one of the oldest bridges in Mobile, Alabama. However, it will be met with tragedy. The Bayou Canot Swing Bridge is in the Bayou Canot River is a swing bridge, which was built mainly so it would swing to let boats travel and would swing back into original shape for trains to cross. However, the bridge wasn't completely finished. This would meet with tragedy. While the train was rocketing down the line, the tugboat Malvilla was pushing 6 barges of the Mobile River. However, since fog had come into the area, the pilot aboard the Malvilla was disoriented and only had his radar to see where he was going. He thought he saw what looked like to be another tugboat on his radar. So the Thompson was I think it was said a half-mile away from the Melvilla, and so the pilot moved ahead. However, he accidentally mistaken the bridge, the Bayou Canot Swing Bridge, as the tugboat. Not knowing it as his mistake, the pilot turned the Melvilla onto the Bayou Canot River from the Mobile River. This would meet with tragedy. The Malvilla's one of the Malvilla's barges, one of the Malvilla's 6 barges hits a concrete pier as the bridge. The two other front barges push the bridge into an S shape. Push the bridge and turns the track into a S shape. Meanwhile, the Sunset Limited is plowing through the fog. The engineer sees the green light, which means all clear, and so he continues on, not knowing his fate. The Sunset Limited is heading over 72 miles an hour. At 2:53 a.m. on September 22nd, 1993, Amtrak Sunset Limited plows and careens off the bridge at 72 miles an hour. Here is a recreation of the train of what would happen on that night.
The locomotive derails, doing almost 70 miles an hour, ripping the passenger cars behind it. They shatter the bridge like a matchstick. Then the whole terrible mass crashes into the water, and the locomotive explodes. That was just amazing.
Here's footage from the Seconds to Disaster special, which shows a more dramatic version of the crash.
Suddenly, the train crashes at full speed. Passengers are hurled in all directions. I remember there were three.
The first locomotive, number 819, plows nose first into the water, killing the engineer instantly. The second locomotive, number 262, lands directly beside 819. The third locomotive, 312, as seen here, flies and crashes on the other side of the bridge, opposite of the two other locomotives. People on board the Malvilla hear the catastrophe and hear a mighty explosion. They are actually the first rescuers on the scene, followed by Coast Guards. Everything is a complete mess. The three locomotives, one the baggage car, the dormitory car, and two of the 6 passenger cars have careened into the water. Passengers are either drowned or killed instantly in the explosion, bitten by snakes, eaten by crocodiles, or drowned or die from smoke inhalation from the smoke of the flames. How do you think people felt being lucky in this car that is mere inches away from falling into the river along with the 3 other coaches? After the end, 47 people are dead. 42 are passengers. What caused this wreck? Well, it was pretty obvious. The tugboat Malvilla and 3 of its barges had struck the Bayou Canot bridge, even though the pilot thought that he was just going to head up to another tugboat. This caused the bridge to get into an S shape. But since the track didn't break, it didn't cause the green light to go red, and so the engineer went past the green light, not knowing of the catastrophe that was just about to happen. However, the train had a fatal delay. The train had stopped in New Orleans, where they had to replace an air conditioner and a broken toilet. This caused the train to be a half-hour late. If this fatal delay didn't happen, the train would have crossed the bridge before the Malvilla had struck it. All 3 locomotives are deemed a fatal loss, and all 3 were scrapped. Amtrak the lead locomotive, 819, had only been in service for 20 days. You call that barely new? Broken air conditioner and broken toilet. Fatal pilot error. This had caused the most tragic wreck in Amtrak history. No charges were filed against the pilot of the Malvilla, but he never again piloted a tugboat. It remains the worst railroad wreck in U.S. history after the Newark Bay, New Jersey rail disaster in 1958. In all, 47 are dead, and 105 others are seriously injured. Thank you for listening to the story of the deadliest Amtrak train wreck in Amtrak's history. I am Mike Benitez, signing out on the story of the 1993 wreck of Amtrak Sunset Limited.